Pinocchio's hunt continued with the dentist, the very woman Cricket had accused of collecting children's teeth for her own twisted amusement. He leapt onto her back and wrapped an oxygen tube tightly around her neck while Cricket gleefully scattered the stolen teeth across the floor. She lost her footing on them and crashed down. Unaware that the tube had been filled with anesthetic gas, she blacked out, only to awaken strapped to a dental chair with Pinocchio standing over her, promising she would experience the same suffering she had once inflicted on James. He began by jamming painkiller-filled syringes into both of her eyes as Cricket applauded from below. Afterward, Pinocchio knocked out every single tooth from her mouth, while Cricket eagerly collected each one before it hit the ground. Once her mouth was empty, Pinocchio carefully inserted several of the stolen teeth into his own mouth, believing he was one step closer to becoming a real person. Back at the basement, James and his friends found the restraints destroyed and Pinocchio nowhere in sight. Desperate, James called him through video chat. As soon as the call connected, the three of them were horrified to see Pinocchio wearing a fresh set of human teeth. They begged him to stop before anyone else died, but Pinocchio misunderstood their words entirely. Convinced they were encouraging him to continue, he fled, forcing the group to chase after him in hopes of stopping him. His next stop was the apartment where James' former bullies lived. The first victim was the girl he had previously seen at the swimming pool. Without warning, Pinocchio smashed her mouth apart with a hammer before crushing both of her hands. He then forced her beneath the water and kept her submerged until Cricket tossed a live electrical cable into the pool, sending a fatal current through the water and electrocuting her. The boy relaxing on the couch remained completely unaware of the chaos unfolding nearby. Listening to music while smoking, he never noticed Pinocchio approach. Pinocchio ripped out his eyes before tearing away his tongue, as Cricket happily reminded him that every kill brought him closer to completing himself. Elsewhere, James and the others arrived at the apartment, only to realize they had come too late. Thinking ahead, James figured out who Pinocchio would target next and immediately rushed toward the home of his tormentor, Trey. By the time they got there, Pinocchio had already entered the house and encountered a young woman taking a bath. Since she wasn't the person he came for, he ignored her. Cricket, however, attacked her by violently pulling her hair. While trying to escape, she accidentally stepped on Pinocchio's nose, only making her situation even worse. Their confrontation carried on to the staircase. Suddenly, Pinocchio flipped over the railing and dangled beneath it while gripping her hair with incredible strength. The force tore her scalp completely off before she tumbled down the stairs and landed on top of him. At last, Pinocchio came face to face with Trey. He sliced off his own nose and threw it at James, pinning both of James' hands against the wall. With Trey cornered and unable to escape, Pinocchio deliberately told lie after lie. Each lie caused his wooden nose to extend farther, repeatedly driving through Trey's body until the injuries finally killed him. Once Trey was dead, Pinocchio gathered pieces of his face along with the skin and organs taken from earlier victims. He stitched everything onto himself, convinced he had finally become a real human being. Cricket admired his new appearance, calling him beautiful, oblivious to the fact that Pinocchio had transformed into something truly monstrous. Soon afterward, Geppetto reached Trey's home and was sickened by the horrific sight before him. Pinocchio had even assembled a grotesque puppet from the remains of his victims, leaving Geppetto horrified by what his creation had become. He hauled Pinocchio back to the basement and hurled him down the stairs. There, Pinocchio finally understood that his wooden mother had manipulated him from the very beginning. Refusing to be controlled any longer, he seized a hammer and crushed Cricket to death. He then turned the weapon on his wooden mother, smashing her apart until nothing remained but shattered fragments. Still obsessed with Pinocchio's desire to become human, Geppetto later guided him into the deepest part of the basement, revealing the room where he had originally been built. To Pinocchio's shock, it was packed with countless abandoned wooden dolls, failed creations that served as grim reminders of everyone who had come before him. Geppetto finally confessed the truth. Every unsuccessful creation had been destroyed, only for its broken pieces to be reused in future experiments. He also revealed the dolls that had become too dangerous to eliminate, forcing him to imprison them in the hidden depths of the basement. He admitted that Pinocchio had been intended as his greatest achievement, the flawless creation he had spent years trying to perfect. But after witnessing everything that had happened, Geppetto declared that Pinocchio was nothing but another failure. Like every experiment before him, he would now take his place among the rejects. Meanwhile, James' friend insisted that killing Pinocchio was the only remaining option. James refused, arguing that despite the terrible things Pinocchio had done, everything had been driven by his desire to protect him. Frustrated, James stormed off alone to find Pinocchio, but Mia and Dudley refused to let him face the danger without them and followed close behind. As they cautiously approached the house, they overheard Geppetto confessing that Pinocchio had been created using the remains of James' deceased best friend. The revelation devastated James, reopening wounds he had never truly healed from. Just before Geppetto could execute Pinocchio, he heard voices outside and stepped away to investigate. James and Mia immediately rushed into the basement and freed Pinocchio. Dudley tried to enter after them, but Geppetto suddenly appeared and shot him in the head, killing him instantly. Once free, Pinocchio led James and Mia into another concealed basement where they could hide. Geppetto relentlessly tried to break through the door. As James struggled to hold it shut, Geppetto slammed it with such force that James was thrown backward, struck his head on the floor, and lost consciousness. With James unconscious, Mia grabbed an axe and attempted to surprise Geppetto. She swung at him but failed to connect, allowing Geppetto to retaliate with a vicious slash that left her badly wounded. James eventually came to and found Mia barely alive. Geppetto mercilessly continued beating her until she was drenched in blood. As he lifted a hammer for the killing strike, James buried an axe into Geppetto's back. At the same time, Pinocchio pointed a gun directly at Geppetto and warned him to back away. When he finally pulled the trigger, the shot missed Geppetto entirely and instead shattered the lock on the cage holding one of Geppetto's most dangerous creations. The savage wooden creature burst free, immediately skewering Geppetto with its wooden arm before dragging him back into the cage, where it brutally finished him off. During the chaos, the cage caught fire, and the flames rapidly spread until the entire house was consumed. When everything was over, only James, Mia, and Pinocchio managed to escape alive. As they walked away from the burning house, Pinocchio quietly confessed that he had never taken pleasure in killing anyone. The instant those words left his mouth, his nose began growing once again,